Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market. Today is the day where we're going to discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today are all the things that are preventing you from making money and hopefully helping you as well. First, the market is bouncing back as the Middle East ceasefire is announced. Hearing some rumors that someone's broken ceasefire. I'm not 100% sure. Legendary is going to be giving us the update there. And we've got political correspondent Phunky reporting in from, I don't know, Miami or somewhere. the East Coast, maybe not, on the ground as he usually is as political correspondent, but I'm sure he'll have something to weigh in on. We've got interesting raises taking place. Very interesting. This Veda announces an $80 million raise to become the DeFi engine for financial apps. Rahim's going to be breaking that down in a sec, and we'll be talking trading platform GTE on Mega ETH announcing a $50 million Series A led by Paradigm. We had announced yesterday we were going to get founder Enzo on the show with us today. We will unfortunately not be able to do that today because he's had some travel issues. So we're in the process of rescheduling. We'll hopefully get him on ASAP back on the show to have that dialed in. Very, very curious to have that conversation. But in the absence of that, we'll be talking all things markets as usual and figuring out what the next thing is. We need to stay tuned for. I've got Legendary and Rahim in the co-host seats with me. We're ready to get into it. Just to remind friends, before we do, nothing we say here is financial advice. The market is risky, riskier, no riskier than ever, no riskier than before, but just it's very risky. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Tuesday. It's the 24th of June. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM been to the driving range this morning for another coaching session.
Tell them how it was.
Went horrible. I was touching grass instead of touching the ball, which is not the point here. But
do you know what I was thinking? Like your whole experience of golf so far, I was actually a bit like, on reflection, I was actually very surprised that you seem to have been enjoying it so much, because there was something odd for me. I didn't think about it at the time, but golf is, like, as you said, like unbelievably difficult sport, right? But you were kind of blissfully just enjoying the process, enjoying the equipment.
I'm still enjoying the process though. Like I had a major revelation when it comes to a more serious note. I realized like how competitive I am in everything that I do.
Well, that's why I was wondering why you're enjoying it so much, because I have to think that you're pretty terrible at the moment.
Exactly. No, I'm absolutely terrible. But I also realized I don't need to be competitive in every single aspect of my life.
That is true.
I'm extremely competitive in crypto, building the business, trading, being like successful. And I feel like that I'm doing pretty well and I've accomplished quite a lot. So I realized that I can, kick in a slower gear with some things. And if it takes me like 10 lessons to hit the ball, then so be it. If it takes 30, then so be it. And I'm just gonna enjoy the pace, however it's gonna shape out.
I like it. I think that is a wise way to look at it. I give you 48 hours to 72 hours for that to last.
Thank you. That's very kind.
No, I can see that lasting for longer. I think it's a good thing. Like you're like, you know what? I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing to be present in the moment. The market's crazy. Like, as long as I'm having fun. I feel like there are some bits and pieces that I do in my life that are very much similar. Like when I play music, I'm just like, I put on a track, I play along to it, and I'm just like in the moment. It's not about how great this piece of music is. So I get that. I think it's kind of nice to do some of these things non-competitively. I'm with you on that.
Do you know what? One of the interesting things, this is like kind of on a tangent, but kind of related, and maybe this is in line with what you're saying, Ledge, is like when I was a teacher, one of the reasons I left teaching was because after 3 years of being a teacher, they were telling me, oh, they have these different grades for being a teacher, right? They said like, oh, you're an outstanding teacher, which is the top grade for being a teacher. It's like, it was only 3 years. So you kind of reached the top of your excellence in that role. And I was like, oh, I'm like super young. I was like 25. I'm getting told I'm a outstanding teacher. Like there's nowhere to go up. Of course you can take on managerial roles, whatever. And that's why I applied to law school, because I was like, okay, well, this is a longer, harder game. Like if you think about the things that you do with your time as like different games that you can play, this is a harder game over a longer period of time, because even if I was a lawyer for like 5 years, that's nothing to the lawyer that's 10 years, and that's nothing to the lawyer that's 20 years. So it's like a harder, more complex game to play, and then I thought that would be more challenging. I think golf is actually in a similar thing where it's like, how fast you move up is kind of here or there. The point is, it's just a long, challenging game which you just choose to challenge yourself with, like, for the rest of your career. I think, Ledge, I don't know if that resonates at all.
No, it does. It really does. And I feel like it's nice to have things that are going at a different pace, because you'll have goals that you'll be able to complete like within a year, within a week, within a couple of months. And it's also nice to have something that goes on for way, way longer than that.
Indeed. Just looking through some of these comments, Overarch said, sounds like there'll be a delay to the Modern Market Golf Day. Maybe we just book it, and then that's when Ledge, you've got to really accelerate. Nev says 30 lessons to hit the ball feels like a long time, but they can't play golf. Nev, you never know. It's a hard game. Okay?
Lesson 2 though. I'm at lesson 2 though.
Yeah, lesson 2. Diablito, let me know when you're ready, and we'll get you golfing from a galloping horse. Diablito runs, I don't know if he used to run or still runs, a polo club. I bet
that's insane. I'm good at horseback riding.
Okay.
Used to ride quite a lot as a kid. Used to also ride through different national parks in the States, which is a beautiful way to explore them. Yellowstone, get a horse for a couple days and just explore like that. That I like. I can even, this was like when I had like my big camera, like I can even turn around on a horse and like, take pictures and facing the opposite way, so that I can do. But I was thinking about polo recently and how hard this has to be. Like
golf
combining those two things. Yeah. Talk to me about polo in like 2 decades or so.
Yeah, we need a decade of golf, and then Diablito will be doing Modern Market Polo pretty soon. We'll be ringing your number when that's the case. But yeah, I think we are going to expand into IRL stuff. Let's see how we go. What year is it? It's 2025. Let's look at 2026, I think, for getting people together and doing something fun. Right. Let's get into the other thing that is fun today, because we're seeing some green in the market. Let's get up to speed with all you need to know from the price action side, starting with the majors as usual. We've got Bitcoin up almost 4% to $105,000. ETH is up 7% to 2.4K. XRP is up 9% to $2.20. BNB is up 3% to $637. We have Solana up almost 8% to 143. Looking at our other favorite alternative majors, have Hype up 5% back to almost $37, and you have Sui up 12% to $2.80. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we've got a super green day across the board, really. You've got Doge up 8%, Pepe's up 12, Trump's up 8, SPX, Murad's coin up 18, really leading the majors, along with WIF today, actually. WIF's up almost 24%, Bonk's up 14, Fartcoin's up 13 as well, Pengu's up 16, what are these other ones? Dog on Bitcoin is up 30%. Popcat's up 15.
Aura is 34. Aura's having a day again.
So high single digits, some going into double digit gains on the meme coin side of things, from what I can see. So green day. Maybe we'll talk about why that is the case. Partly, I think, because of the headlines themselves. Markets bounce back as Middle East ceasefire is announced. Legendary is going to break that down in a bit to get on top of whether that's been gone back on in any way, or what the situation is there. Why has the market responded so positively to the ceasefire? And then in other headlines, which we'll discuss today, Veda announced an $18 million raise to become the DeFi engine for financial apps. I'm looking forward to Raheem's analysis on that. I've got something to add because there's some prominent funds involved, who I like to see. And then trading platform GTE on Mega ETH announced a $50 million Series A led by Paradigm 2. Really want to discuss this private investing market. We've spoken about it before recently, how it's been tough. I think in the last 6 to 12 months, I think a lot of people have got wrecked in traditional infra. And I think Bitcoin has done great. It's been hard to make the case to go private when there's been so much public market gains to be had. I'm wondering if there's another round here where it becomes slightly more interesting based on the apps that are getting built. So let's talk about that in a bit. Some notable price action. You've got, I've mentioned all of those already. Just in addition, Virtuals is actually up 20% as well. That kind of AI ecosystem on Base. Ledge, anything we need to know on the NFT side?
Yep, let's take a quick look at what's going on the NFT side. It is Actually, a green day for NFTs as well. In terms of the Genesis collection, that's the one I wanted to point out. They are up 18% on the day, so quite some movement on that side as well. Looking at the majors, Green Day as well. Pudgy's up 4.8%. Little Pudgies are up almost 10%. Apes 2%. The Kato Genesis NFTs, the Yapibaras up almost 13%. So definitely also a green bounce for NFTs as well.
Okay.
The thing that happened with the all of Matt Fury's collection is pretty crazy. I don't know if you guys read, but the Chainsaw NFT, which is basically an entity or a company that's behind all the tech for all of Matt Fury's projects, not only now but older ones, apparently they backend opened the contract, minted a stack of NFTs and dumped them into bids. So this started from like a new collection that came out like last week, but then yesterday they exploited NFTs from like 23 and 24. So it's been a pretty bad shit show on Pepe NFTs. What's interesting to me, I was speaking to someone about this, is I feel like in some way, if there's one decentralized IP out there, is actually Pepe, if you think about it. Like the meme coin, Pepe had like no effect on it. There was no FUD around it. Obviously, it comes from Matt Fury's art, but I feel like it's kind of like become such a big crypto meme that a lot of people don't even care. They're like, yeah, sure, Matt Fury's great artist. He's dropping collections. They don't get as much traction. But yeah, it was pretty crazy to see this exploit going back to like 22, 23. Pretty insane.
Yeah, that's terrible. So what the people who are in charge basically scammed everyone because they started minting new ones and dumping into bids, right?
There's a lot of speculation because they came out saying that it has nothing to do with them. There was like a counterparty that was involved, but they are the deployer wallet. So like, yeah, on chain, when you look at it, I read like some of these investigators article that it seems like Chainsaw NFT, which is like the company, the tech company behind all of their NFTs, is kind of responsible apparently on chain at least.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thanks for flagging that. That's obviously like just completely unacceptable. Got to keep an eye on those kind of things. Getting into the rest of the roundup to get up to with everything else that is happening in the space. Anthony Pompliano announces $750 million raise for Bitcoin treasury company ProCap Financial. We had Pudgy Penguins, or literally a Pudgy Penguin, ring the NASDAQ opening bell with Van Eck. If you can see the photo on screen, you have a bunch of professional looking people, plus a humongous Pudgy Penguin.
Which is also looking pretty professional.
Well, they could have not wearing a suit or anything, no tie, no nothing.
The photo is so hilarious. Yesterday, Kilana pointed it out to me that if you like really look at it, he was like, "Is this AI generated?" And I was like, "Why are you saying that?" He's like, "All of their faces look like they're not real people." And I was like,
"Oh, you're saying it looks
Trust
ridiculous because of people's faces and not the fact that there's a humongous penguin."
There's also a small Pudgy in the back that someone's holding up, which is kind of cute.
Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, it's hilarious that you think it's hilarious because of people's faces, not the fact that there's a humongous penguin there. That's how the the IP's got like really integrated, excellently integrated IP. Okay, so I mean that's pretty awesome for the Penguins. They've obviously got a quite close relationship with Van Eck, I think. In other news, Federal Reserve removes reputational risk examinations for banks in favor of financial risk discussions. Should help banks serve crypto companies better. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think a lot of crypto companies were getting aggressively targeted as part of these questionnaires that people had to ask and they couldn't really pass them. So that's probably quite helpful. In big stablecoin news, $90 billion financial services giant Fiserv launches a stablecoin platform on Solana. I think that's quite significant on the stablecoin side. Also significant, talking of the variety of treasury companies that are getting spun up, hedge fund executives are in advanced talks to raise $100 million to buy BNB, according to Bloomberg. So that sounds like there will be some type of company that's going to be buying BNB pretty soon. So I want to keep an eye out on that. I still think, like we were talking about the last few days, I think that I think all of these things are a trade. Like if you could get in on the ground floor on any of these, I think it's a trade. I think if you could potentially buy these on day one on open, probably a trade from day one to day two. These are the new meme coins, right? You buy them, you get in before pre-bonding. If you get into the IPO or post-bonding, if you buy it on day one, you just see where it goes. Hopefully at 3 or 4 X's and or 2 X's between day 1 and day 2, and then you get out, because I don't see it going forever like that. Publicly traded Sequans announces it will raise 384 mil to launch a Bitcoin treasury. That's also, just another company on the bandwagon in that respect. Strategy announces another 245 Bitcoin buy, and DFDV partners with Kraken to launch the first tokenized US listed corporation.
If you look at the snapshot, like up to now, almost half the news is either entities buying BTC, entities announcing that they're going to launch a BTC treasury, hedge funds going into buying other tokens, and people launching stablecoins. Like everything is like focused around those two topics, is like BTC or other crypto treasuries, and institutions which think they're like big enough to launch their own stablecoin. It's quite interesting to see how much of the action is focused on just those two things.
Okay, so that's an excellent point. I mean, we have been drawing specific attention to treasury companies, the variety of treasury companies, right? Because, okay, fine, you've got Bitcoin treasury companies, but now you have a Hype treasury company, you've got a BNB treasury company coming, you've got Sol treasury companies, you've got an ETH one. The question is, Ledge, maybe we've asked this one before, what are we doing with this information? Like, we've kind of laid out this analogy, which is something like, this is kind of like meme coin trading for stock traders or more sophisticated traders. I think a lot of people are either short Circle now or think it's completely ludicrous where Circle is trading at. So what are we doing with this information? We suggested maybe, buy in, sell out, play the game if you want to, if that's the kind of risk you like to take. How are you thinking about it today?
If anything, it makes me, so two answers to that. On the Bitcoin side of things, it makes me super comfortable, like knowing that so many companies are buying, combined with the data that even after all the things that happened over the weekend in the Middle East, we bring this up quickly, we still have a day like yesterday with another 350 million in net inflows in US dollars, that is in BTC ETFs. So that makes me pretty confident what's going on with BTC. Also think about the fact that it like only dropped under 100K for just a couple hours before it bounced back to 101. And obviously now with all the news that we're going to touch on, it's at 105. So super confident with my BTC holdings. With Circle, that was very interesting yesterday. It doesn't look that dramatic on the chart. If I pull it up quickly, because it did go yesterday basically from 240 to almost like 300, went back to 240 and recovered to 270s, trading around 260 right now. So that definitely for the first time that we had like quote unquote a major correction in a stock. I mean, going from 300 to 240, losing 25% in a day, but also bouncing back up almost all the way up is pretty insane. I still expect a lot of volatility around that. The question is how you wanna play that. I think, as I said, I sold my Circle stock at 200. I sold definitely too early. I don't know if I want to buy back in now, but I definitely know that I want to play all these other IPO games in the meantime. I mean, the other thing that you could do is like you could buy the stock and start writing put options and just basically find a sort of base trade there as well. But that's getting a bit more complex. So for the time, I'm still watching the Circle chart every day. I'm still watching it in conjunction with what we mentioned on the show, that is the Visa and the MasterCard chart as well, to kind of see how the market is playing that. But I'm definitely putting aside quite some capital to play the next IPOs as well.
Okay. I like, personally, I don't think you sold too early. I know the price suggests that you do right now, but I think the market is wrong at this particular juncture. So I think you booked the right trade personally. Couple of comments on the Twitter side, which I think are interesting. Let's go with Mackey's first, and then we'll go to Stuss's. I think both are interesting. What's the view that like these are just top signals completely? Like someone like Anthony Pompliano, who, remember, the top of last cycle was shilling like some of, I can't remember which one it was. It was like one of those exchanges that was offering some crazy amount of interest, or I might butcher this, but I know that he was involved in, he's got a huge platform, right? So he was involved in marketing, just some of the more excessive ends of the spectrum of things in this industry. And, most of that stuff either disappeared or didn't go very well. Now raising, I think officially this is the largest amount that any publicly traded company has raised for the purpose of buying Bitcoin. That can't be compared to strategy, right? So I don't know. There's some statistic. I'll try and find the exact statistic that was given, but as it relates to Bitcoin treasury companies specifically, Ledge, you're saying you're taking a lot of confidence from it. I guess the question is that you're not concerned by the kind of top signal nature of it?
Not really, not yet. Just put it in perspective. 750 million raised sounds a lot, but if we have days like yesterday where 350 mil of inflows, the week before 388, 260 mil, 430 mil, that's like basically just 2 or 3 days of inflows. So the market could absorb that if one of those like treasury companies would have an issue and would need to offload their BTC. I definitely think that there would be some anxiety in the market and see, oh my God, is this leading to like a cascading effect? As long as it's not like strategy or like one of the biggest players blowing up, I'm not overly concerned. I definitely feel like this could be a top signal if it reaches a certain level of absurdity, but I don't think we are there just yet.
Okay. Ryan, what do you think about?
Yeah, I think I met this friend over the weekend and we hung out for like 5-6 hours, and he was essentially talking about Anthony's, like him raising money and like everyone raising money for BTC treasury. He's massive on BTC Fi. Like he believes like DeFi is going to be like a huge thing on Bitcoin. He's big maxi about it. His argument is that it's going to be very likely coming out like next cycle rather than this cycle. But his argument was essentially that if you have all of these companies buying treasuries worth millions of dollars, you have to be ludicrous to not assume that they would want some form of yield ecosystem built around it. And I think, to me, I don't think this like feels like a top signal. I feel like when we start building a lot of Ponzi-nomic yield generation ecosystems for Bitcoin, so people will be like, oh, Bitcoins are going up and now you can actually get like great yield and stack more Bitcoin. I think that the early derivation of those products, that's what I'll be like, okay, this is like getting like a bit too much for me. I think that would be more of like top signal. But I think like the more I spend like so many hours with him, I feel like he got me bullish on BTC DeFi, which is something I've not like looked into. I'm not like really crazy about it. But yeah, I think that's when we will start seeing like companies implode and stuff. But I think like right now, I think it would be crazy to think that these are like top signals yet.
I think there will be an interesting Bitcoin DeFi. Not necessarily. This is the thing. I don't think there will be Bitcoin DeFi in the way that Bitcoin DeFi maybe wants it to be. In the same way that I think Bitcoin DeFi kind of happens on ETH, it kind of is happening on Hyperliquid. It kind of happens elsewhere, and it probably happens better than those places than it does on Bitcoin itself. I have a feeling like, if all of this stuff gets absorbed by TradFi, it's going to be a very CeFi experience for people. If you're holding a lot of your Bitcoin in ETFs and you want to borrow against it, well, you're not going to touch DeFi to do that, right? Like you're going to, there'll be ways, just like Legendary borrowed against his stock portfolio to buy Circle. There'll be ways for you to borrow against your Bitcoin ETFs and buy more stocks or buy whatever you want, buy more Bitcoin or whatever. That would be my instinct as things stand. But I kind of am, maybe I think maybe you're right. I am definitely concerned about them in general. Maybe it's like too early to be concerned. I'm definitely not in the stage where I don't want to participate. I definitely want to participate in a company that's like buying hype or buying Sol. I've kind of gone off personally. I know it's awesome and done great things. It's clearly not the fastest horse this cycle though, right? Like they've built great things. It's not the fastest horse at the moment, in my opinion. But what about this other question before we move on? Sell Circle by Coinbase. Legendary. Stussy in the Twitter comments, he also shared, or they also shared, I don't know who it is. Coinbase receives 50% of Circle's residual revenue from USD reserve assets as per Circle's 2025 IPO filing. This is the type of data that everyone is referencing when they are saying Circle is not only overvalued by itself, it's also overvalued versus Coinbase. Do you like that trade at the moment, or do you think otherwise?
Not really. I don't like that trade. I think the market is looking, or the specifically CT is looking way too analytically at Circle and Coinbase. I just think that the market has seen the opportunity to get exposure to stablecoins. The market knows that everyone talks about stablecoins, and nobody at this FOMO stage cares about like the deal sharing with the fee sharing, not deal sharing, sorry, with Coinbase. It's like, and it's also more and more retail investors buying. It's like the same thing with Tesla when you have people saying, "Oh my god, but look at the PE ratio," and others like, "Hey, this company is cool. They build robots. The whole world will be populated by robots in maybe a decade, and this guy wants to, bring people to Mars, even though that's a completely different company. It's not Tesla. So I'm just gonna buy the stock." And I feel like in this in this FOMO sentiment, I don't want to do a logical trade like that. I'd rather sit on my capital for now and wait like for the next IPOs and play more short-term trades. I'm not saying that Coinbase can't be an interesting stock over the mid to the long run, but I feel like with all the volatility in the market, I like short-term trades, like the play that I did with Circle, essentially more than doubled up my capital in like 12, 13 days, way more than thinking mid to long term about something, especially when we don't know how the cycle's going to top out. Will the midterms next year really mark the cycle top, et cetera, et cetera? So I don't want to commit long-term capital to Coinbase, especially if I think about how much of my overall net worth is still within crypto. So I don't need additional stock exposure to crypto for the long term. Happy to take short-term plays though.
That's some like personal, portfolio reasons for not. I'll give you another reason. Just while we're momentarily funding, I know a lot of fudding. I know a lot of people have coin, including myself. So I'm fudding my own bags here, and it makes me want to get rid of it, to be honest. I'm increasingly taking the position that I should be invested in things which I use myself and can really feel that they're good. I don't know if I can say that about Coinbase at the moment. The product doesn't work. Like, think of all of the people that keep complaining that they get locked out or that they get really onerous things asked of them all the time. People get locked out all the time, and the only way you can get your money is by having a big following. And then you say something on Twitter, then they come and help you. Like, that is not a functioning product. And I'm sure there'll be hundreds and thousands of people for whom it's great and it works fine. But I've just heard way too many stories of that from people who, maybe need to, like, that's no smoke without fire, right? There's something is happening as part of their process where that's affecting, I don't know the numbers, but there's just way too much smoke there for me. Not saying there's anything insidious there. I'm just saying it needs to get fixed, and it's not getting fixed. So I don't like products that don't fulfill their like core function, which is to let me trade crypto and then do what I want with my money. The whole point of crypto is that you get to do whatever you want, and then you get 100 bars being put up as you try and move it here and move it there. Like, that's not ideal for me personally. By the way, I'm a coin holder, so I don't know. That shows how often I go back and change my stocks. I'm fully locked in on crypto, to be honest. Look, we want to move on, but Oxy, your hand is raised. Give us a final take here before we keep it moving.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I completely agree with you, Legendary, that it doesn't seem like Circle's being traded on any form of reason, I guess. I will be really curious. I mean, yesterday, Fed shares or Fed employees came out and said there needs to be a rate cut, so on and so forth, as early as next month. I'll be really curious come Q3 earnings, if rate cuts do happen and Circle starts operating at a loss, what happens at that point? Because then people will be like, okay, hold on, what's going on here? Let's actually dig into the details. And then they'll be like, okay, wait a minute. The treasury, treasury yields dropping by, 0.5% or what have you, or 0.25% puts them at an operating loss. And then things are going to start getting kind of hairy, I think.
That's a great take. That's a great take. Obviously, the way Circle makes money is on the interest, right? So if rates go down, that hits their profitability. I 100%, maybe not 100, but that seems like a very, very likely scenario for me if I had to attach a percentage to it. Like that is 100% happening in the next 12 months. The only question is how soon. Ledge, do you have a take on rate cuts in general, how that's feeding into your assessment of anything? I think the poly market on rate cuts just spiked overnight to maybe suggest that something might be coming sooner rather than later. But how are you thinking about rates at the moment?
Yeah, you're right. That probability has gone up massively on poly market. I feel like the conflict in the Middle East is very important to that from the perspective that every $10 that the oil price is going up is roughly the equivalent of a 50 bips increase of 0.5% of the inflation rate in the US. So both those things will be important to monitor. The higher the probability that the situation stays stable in the Middle East, the better that will be for short-term rate cuts as well. And this is currently what I think poly market is pricing in. Definitely something to always, look at, but it hasn't been overly relevant, I would say, for the first half of the year because the general consensus was no rate cuts and the market still did well. But of course, Trump is doing his best. And if you scroll through his Truth Social, if it's not a post on the Middle East, then he's currently making, it's a high chance that it's something to do with JPOW as well. So the pressure from the US, yeah, there we go, 6 hours ago, too late. There's no day where he's not posting on that. Too late. Jerome Powell of the Fed will be in Congress today in order to explain, among other things, why he's refusing to lower the rate. Europe has had 10 cuts. We've had 0, no inflation, great economy. We should be at least 2 to 3 points lower, would save the USA $800 billion per year plus. What a difference this would make. If things later change to the negative, increase the rate. I hope Congress really works this very dumb, hard-headed person over. Will be paying for his incompetence for many years to come. The board should activate Make America Great Again. Definitely something that is of massive, massive relevance for the US if you think about refinancing their debt this year.
Yeah, okay. That's as usual, delivered in typical Trump style. You mentioned the Middle East, let's keep it moving into that region then. What are the updates we need to know? Obviously, we're looking at this through the lens of the markets. What do we need to know? There seems to be a ceasefire. The market seems to have reacted very positively to that overnight. What are the updates?
Yes, there's been a ceasefire. There's also been a bit of drama and a bit of breaking news, but let's unpack all of that chronologically. So after we had reported on the show that the US did strike the nuclear facilities in Iran, and Iran and Israel continued the mutual attacks, Donald Trump went on a posting spree, basically saying that there's going to be a ceasefire, which at that point in time wasn't confirmed by neither Irani nor Israeli media. Over the night, that news got more and more solidified, and both representatives of Iran and Israel said that there's going to be a ceasefire, which is something that the market obviously had reacted to very, very positively. However, so 6 hours ago, let's get this up on screen again, Donald Trump did post that the ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it. And then there's been reports from Israel that Irani rockets have been fired over or towards a military base, and Israel wanted to retaliate on that. Currently, Trump and Netanyahu are on the phone talking about that, and allegedly Netanyahu said that he couldn't stop that attack. He couldn't stop that strike by Israel anymore. However, Donald Trump has been making those two posts, and he's basically on the way to the NATO summit. He's been saying, Israel, all in caps lock, do not drop these bombs. If you do it, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. And then he also posted, Israel's not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So it's a bit unclear what is going on, but clearly Trump is very, very emotional about that topic. There is a clip, B, if you could play that, because I think sound-wise it's going to work better if you do it instead of me.
Yes, let me just find it. Okay, here we go. This should work. Can you guys hear this?
You have 12 hours. You
Yeah.
don't.
Is that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed to peace?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Wait,
yeah,
is that real?
Yeah, that's on the way to the NATO summit. So he's clearly very, very emotional about that. And maybe to add a bit more context to that, what has happened is when Iran did retaliate for the US strikes, they did it in a face-saving manner, which is that they basically telegraphed the attack. They did tell US officials. Qatar was also informed. They did apologize to Qatar as well that this is going to happen. But doing it this way is A, not the first time that Iran did it this way, and B, it allows them like to basically still show strength and say that they did retaliate. And then it has been a bit unclear with that ceasefire the whole timeline on that, because it was starting at a different time for Iran and Israel, and basically the idea was that like both of them could complete the current attack, which is, I don't know, it's so surreal and weird if you think about that. And what Israel did apparently, according to this, is that the last attack that they conducted before the ceasefire basically got into effect was the most massive that they've done throughout the last 2 weeks.
Okay. So that's what it is according to some sources. I'm not sure about this video, man, that we just showed, to be honest. Like, it seems very, very uncharacter. I mean, I know he's kind of tweets aggressively, emotionally, but just want to put it out there. Like, until I can find like a secondary source or a primary one as well, I want to find, I definitely want to have a look around and see if I can find a primary thing for that as well. Because, man, that sounded pretty crazy.
Have a look at CNN and all major media.
It's all there as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, that's pretty insane on some level, but I think we've pretty much addressed it to the extent that it relates to the markets. We're going to keep it moving then. We've got 15 minutes left of the show. Hope that's like a sufficient explanation for some of the stuff that's going on as it relates to the markets. We've got two interesting raises to talk about next, because I think that will be, well, I'm just kind of getting more interested in the private markets again. I know me and Ledge have been seeing more deals that we like the sound of more. Remember, we kind of put the checkbooks away a long time ago, being like, no, this stuff is all terrible. Valuations are too high. I think that's kind of shifted recently. So curious here, Rahim, you want to tell us about Veda, who I think have got something very compelling that have come to the market?
Yes, absolutely. So Veda, essentially, they just announced that they closed an $18 million round. What do they do? Like a TLDR is they're basically simplifying and scaling DeFi lead generation. So they're providing like a way more modular vault approach so that other ecosystems can enable their own products, making it easier for everyday users. So their argument is that like when people are looking for yield generation, they're split between multiple chains, multiple protocols. They're all trying to build it in-house in one ecosystem. So regardless of what L2 that you're referring to, all of these wallets, infrastructure, ecosystems, lending platforms, perps, they all can be part of like this engine and can be under like the hood. Their whole argument is that we are not just building for DeFi, we are building it so much on the under the hood that we can actually incentivize the everyday consumer to get into this ecosystem. Some numbers that they put out as part of like their announcement is that they've hit 1 billion TVL in just about 4 months and added another 3 billion over the course of another 3 months. So they have about 3.5 to 4 billion TVL. They have about 100,000 depositors, a bunch of vaults, about $100 million in each of those vaults. And they're actually integrating like a lot of ecosystems from EtherFi, Plasma. We've obviously talked about Plasma a lot. They had some interesting VCs also invest, VC funds and venture funds. I know Maelstrom, if I'm not mistaken, they also invested in EtherFi. So I feel like a lot of these investors who were involved in a lot of these other products have kind of invested in their ecosystem. So yeah, they're trying to simplify DeFi for everyday, for not only DeFi people, but they're like, we can build an ecosystem that not only simplifies it for our current users, but it also possibly brings like a whole new generation of people into our world.
Good stuff. Excellent summary. First instinctive thought is yes, Maelstrom did invest in EtherFi. I think that was a home run for them. Maelstrom, for people who are not familiar, is always one I like to keep an eye out for, very, very specifically, because that is the family office run by Arthur Hayes, who's very prominent investor, trader, former exchange founder, very well respected now, and writes Substack, which a lot of people read. Always keep an eye out for what Maelstrom are investing in. So I would take a note of their name down. And just for some additional context, Veda were in charge of the Plasma vaults. So when they say they've now got, $3 billion under management, or, they have the tech that bootstraps this kind of collection of funds, 1 billion is going to be Plasma, isn't it? Because Plasma literally just did 250 mil, opened another 250 mils. That was 500 mil, then did another 500. So within 7 days, that was just an extra 1 bill that Veda can now say, oh, yep, we helped to raise 1 bill because they were in charge of doing it for Plasma. So must be excellent. It must be an excellent team, must be excellent tech, for the very best really to be working with them as they kind of collect funds before they kind of go off into DeFi and do various things. So I like it. I think it's interesting. Ledge, what's your take here on valuation? I don't think they didn't say anything on value. Increasingly now, people are not telling. They're saying people tell how much it's amazing, but we're not really hearing about the valuation, right? What are your thoughts here?
I like it. As you said, if you do stuff like Plasma, if you manage to get deals that big and get institutional trust, then yes, you can scale up pretty quickly and going from 1 bill to a 4 bill TVL in just a couple of months, essentially. Other than that, nothing else to say. It's just a very, very interesting company. Apparently, they can get institutional trust and just increase the TVL pretty fast. It's a deal that I would have done as well, but would be really curious to see the valuation behind it, though.
The thing that I wonder about these kind of passive companies is that as long as you can show me that they're printing money, then I'm happy. But I think what happened with like the ETH, it reminds me a little bit. These two things are clearly not the same, right? But the ETH restaking protocols became this big kind of deposit heavy pools of money. And, the yield is getting generated and passed on to the users. And then it wasn't obvious to me how the protocols themselves were getting valued. I think EtherFi had a big valuation because they had the most TVL. And they've actually, I think EtherFi is just a super well, competently run company. We had the founder Mike on the show a few months ago. They've gone on to launch like credit cards, DeFi. They've got like yield strategies that you can run. They've got a card now, a crypto card, where you can spend the yield on your ETH. So, there's ways that they're monetizing, and I think that makes sense. I guess the question is, I'm not actually entirely sure how this one, how they get paid. Maybe it's just like
I'm assuming other than like the fee structure they must have for their vault, because they're providing some sort of like a front end web 2 tech stack
That's it.
that
Yeah.
they might have like an API integration, because like that's what their selling point is, right? Like if you read the article that you were just sharing on the screen, it talks about like something very valuable, that it says that vaults are like so primitive to building out any ecosystem. You want to have these vaults so builders can come, users can come, people can like lock in their capital. So I understand building that credibility. I'm assuming a huge part of their revenue might just come from like API integration and a lot of like tech front revenue streams.
Maybe to be fair, people just pay them to set it up for them. Like this is a thing
Yeah.
that not every protocol has the bandwidth to. So there'll just be a service agreement. Like, look, you provide the vault. We need to raise however much money. You're gonna get a fee. Great business. I like the business. Okay, let's keep an eye on that. Would love to get them on the show. Actually, we need to try and figure out a way to get them on. Moving on to someone who we will get on soon. If you saw the announcement that we were going to be speaking to Enzo from GTE today, we will not be doing that because he's unable to make it. Had some issues with flying and cancellation of flights, so he's kind of stuck in that respect. So we are going to talk about it though. Still a headline. We're going to try and reschedule to get him on the show soon. But the headline is that Paradigm have invested $15 million in GTE, a startup build as the world's fastest decentralized exchange. Obviously, one of the reasons you can say that it's the fastest one is because it's going to get built on Mega ETH, which is certainly positioning itself as being faster than everything else that is out there currently, including Hyperliquid, of course, which has become the probably most popular place to trade any and everything, or everything that is available to trade now. There's obviously going to be more things that get put there, but GT have a similar vision. They plan on making it be the one place to trade everything also, and arguably in a more performant way because it's going to be faster. So just in terms of a few details, they said they've developed a central limit order book that updates at the exact same latency as Binance or Coinbase without sacrificing any of the properties of decentralization in terms of non-custodial, composable, or permissionlessness. That's what the co-founder Enzo said to the block. A few more interesting points from his tweet, which he shared on the announcement. He said, there are very few things that shift the crypto industry. He said Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and Hype, and now GTE. Interesting that Hype is on that list already for such a relatively immature asset, but it is there trying to position itself as like, I guess the next evolution for crypto, right? For crypto trading. They've obviously got Paradigm, which is a very well-known fund to participate in this raise. And this, I guess one of the core bits of information that is helpful to know is always the spirit with which these raises, and this is a trend on Mega ETH, to be honest. Spoken about the culture on Hyperliquid and how it's very much a culture of like getting money back to the community. The trend on Mega ETH has been, sure, you can, take some VC money, but try and get the community involved as soon as possible. So for GTE, what that meant was, yes, they've just done a 15 million Series A from Paradigm, but that's followed on from a $10 million raise across 3 rounds in January, including a $2.5 million community round on Echo. So, people are doing those rounds increasingly. And I believe those people are up now because the valuation now is higher. In terms of the valuation, to give people a sense, and I think this is interesting to look at if you're trying to forecast how you assess the crypto landscape of the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. Tyler had this post to share. By the way, these valuations are not public. We do not know the numbers. There's just been kind of rough rumors of what the valuations might be. Tyler had this post to share. He said some fun projections. GT is currently valued at around 160 mil. We don't, as I said, don't know that for sure. But if you take that number and assume that Paradigm is looking for a 10x, probably VCs are trying to 10x their money, right? That would put the maybe evaluation in the future at around 1.6 billion, or certainly over $1 billion. That would be the aim, even if the initial valuation isn't 100% correct. That obviously has knock-on effects for Mega ETH, right? Mega ETH's recent rounds have been in the region of 500 to 600 mil, if I'm not mistaken. That was where maybe the Echo round was 300 or 400. Then the Fluffle raise was at 500 or 600. So you're looking at potentially, at a minimum, 3x, 3 to 4 to 5x, depending on where you got in on those community mega ETH rounds themselves. If mega ETH is going to be more than 1.5 bill, which would be the absolute bare minimum, to be honest, if people are valuing the main exchange on mega ETH at around or over 1 bill, you're going to assume that the underlying chain is going to be worth more than that, right? So I think some of those numbers are really interesting to talk about, because you're starting to get a sense of, I don't know, what the potential could be like for mega ETH. It's obviously been something we have identified as like a key place to keep an eye on over the next 3 to 6 months. So I'm really, really curious to see how that play out, and pretty happy to see some of those numbers actually, because we, as we've been public about, we are Fluffle holders. We have taken maybe a disproportionate bet on the NFT side of things as well, to try and get involved in the community side, because we think as all of these apps become more successful, community gets taken along for that ride, right? So that's been a relatively early bet we've made, and we'll see how that plays out over the next 3 to 6 months. But Ledge, I know you've been invested in a variety of ways also on the mega ETH side, so curious for your thoughts here on the GTE raise or any implications for mega ETH.
I'll take the counterpoint here and talk a bit against my own bags. As you said, I hold Fluffles, I hold a good amount of bad buns, but I wonder if this translation to look at GTE's potential target valuation by Paradigm, those implied 1.6 billion, and be like, if this is what we value GTE at, then we should value mega ETH at I don't know, say 2x from that. I wonder if this is still the right way, especially in a world where mega ETH is very, very strongly propagating the thesis that Brad calls a fat app thesis, that the apps can be more valuable than the underlying infrastructure. And this is what ultimately is driving people to a certain infrastructure layer. So I know that right now the market is thinking about valuations like that and is valuing things like that. But I don't know if in the long run, this is the right way to look at things and be like, if the DEX is valued at this, then the underlying chain should be a minimum of 2x of that.
I love that question. That was one of the ones that we've prepared to ask. So I think I would love to put that question out there for whether that's Enzo or anyone else in the mega ETH ecosystem, actually, because that's something to test in the future, where we move towards a set of ecosystems which are more app focused, and where the most of the value accrues to the apps. Maybe it's not obvious that much of the value accrues to the chain in the way that it always has previously, because that is a step change from the past. So I'm actually down for that line of thinking, and I was thinking a similar thing. Rahim, curious for your thoughts here on the raise, whether that's on the GTE side or just general sense on how things are playing out for mega ETH so far before their mainnet, which I believe is coming in Q3.
I'm just thinking like how, just going back to the fat app thesis that you were talking about, that people just like to take like leverage bets on like broader ecosystems if they're not active participants of it. Like you take any ecosystem like Inject or AVAX or whatever, you have so many participants who hold the underlying chain infrastructure asset, but have done nothing on AVAX. I used to hold Inject a lot, never did anything, have zero idea who's building what on that ecosystem. So I just like wonder if that at some degree, especially when these tokens get like listed on exchanges, the game changes then, right? The moment you have your token listed, because now you're getting exposure to a whole crowd of people who are not interested in like your underlying tech stack or like the products that are being built out of it. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I like that we are thinking in that direction, and I think it would be cool for us to move towards that direction. But like our industry has such a big element of speculation, which drives more attention, which drives more TVO, and like, you know, that's the flywheel. The flywheel is actually speculation in some ways. So yeah, I'm interested to see that for sure. But I love that we are kind of like raising money like this. Yesterday when ICO was talking about, he put out a tweet, I can't remember what it is, but I was talking about that I love the fact that we are doubling down to this idea of like decentralized everything. Like we are talking about decentralized exchanges, now we're talking about decentralized forms of like raising money through echo rounds, through community rounds, you know, the whole rect the Rect brand thesis is again the same thing. It's like a decentralized way to create a brand anyone can create. So I like that we've moved from looking at decentralization from just like a tech point, but from a more philosophical point. And I don't know, I just feel like that excites me a lot as an industry, because I feel like in some ways we might be losing that to TradFi, but in
Yes.
some ways I feel like that's becoming more and more strong.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's fair. And I think on the trading side of things, it's just going to accelerate towards, I do think that is the way around it's going to be. Like things like GTE or, you know, Hyperliquid already is a fantastic example of how the trading experience on crypto rails is significantly better. Ledge, remember you were saying you were trying to buy Circle on the day Circle went live, and you were just like, what the hell's going on? I can't get this thing. I can't get a quote. I can't, like, you're going between brokerages. You couldn't do it, right?
Took me 3-4 hours to be able to buy that, and that was because I was using then a different brokerage account than my typical one. On my domestic Austrian one, I think the earliest I would have been able to buy is like literally the day after. And then because we talked about Coinbase, when I bought CoinStock, I bought that on chain on Bungie via BackedFi. Just swapped some stables into coin, and then just swapped back once I wanted to sell. Didn't have to think about, is it a weekend? Is it trading hours? Am I in the pre-market? Am I in the live trading hours? Is it aftermarket? Who's going to fill my quote? How much is it going to be? It's like so much more efficient and so much cheaper.
Yeah, entirely happy in the comments, just echoing that sentiment as well. Hargreaves Lansdowne took 24 hours. It's just useless. It's just absolutely useless. I do think, you know, and you can have an argument about the extent to which this stuff is decentralized. Obviously, there's a scale to this, and Mega ETH have made some decisions which have meant they are maybe less so compared with Ethereum itself. But, you know, there's trade-offs in all of these things. Same with Hyperliquid. So we'll keep an eye out. It's obviously an interesting side of the market, and it's one which people want to see more of, especially after Hyperliquid success. So we'll keep an eye out there. That was a good show. I like that. We are at time for today. I hope you enjoyed it as usual. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X Video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts too. Thank you so much to my co-hosts, Legendary and Rahim. And thank you to the YouTube commentors, the X commentors. It's just great information that we're getting from all you guys. Great energy. We appreciate it. As always, have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll be back again with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.